right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm coming to you on behalf of the health ministry here at New Hope Baptist Church. My name is Dr. Oyederin. I am a licensed pediatrician. I'm board certified and I'm licensed in the state of Maryland. So I'm coming to talk to you about COVID, not so much about the COVID. I'm going to say a little bit about the COVID virus itself so we are educated about what exactly we're dealing with, but I want to talk mostly about the vaccine. So I know that there's lots of information out there, and for someone who was even educated in the subject, it's sometimes really confusing. So I'm hoping to maybe give you all a chance to ask some questions so that you can make a decision about whether or not you should be getting the vaccine for yourself, okay? I'm going to try not to be before you long. This is a dialogue, so feel free to stop me at any time to ask questions. If I'm saying something that doesn't make sense, please tell me in the moment. You don't have to wait. All right. Okay, so let's get started. Let's open that first slide. For people who want to call in with questions, there are two phone numbers you can use to call. For those of you who are joining us on YouTube or Facebook or other forms of social media, the church phone number is 410-838-9019 or 410-838-9013. So once again, the first part is 410-838, and the last four digits are 9019 or 9013. Okay? Okay. And we also have people here in the sanctuary, so some people might ask questions in here, and I'll just go ahead and repeat what they've said so that you know what the question was, okay? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what is COVID-19? So COVID-19 is a type of coronavirus. So when you use the word coronavirus, you're using an umbrella term. So there are many, who knows how many different kinds of coronavirus. The common cold is a type of coronavirus. SARS is a type of coronavirus. But the one that we're talking about now is COVID-19. So it was named COVID. CO stands for corona, VI stands for virus, D stands for disease, and then 2019. 19 is the year that it was first identified. So there are just so you know, when you say coronavirus, it's an umbrella term. What we are worried about right now is COVID-19. Okay, it's mainly spread by respiratory droplets. Respiratory droplets are what comes out of your mouth. So that can come out of your mouth any way. It can be from talking, from sneezing, from coughing, from singing, clearing your throat. Anytime your mouth is open, basically, you can spread a respiratory droplet. Okay, so that's the problem, is COVID-19 hangs out in those droplets, and those droplets can fall anywhere, and you can breathe them in, you can touch them. It can get spread pretty easily, so that's why it's so contagious. It's really actually one of the most contagious things we've seen. Okay, next one. So symptoms. So symptoms vary because those droplets can fall anywhere. Think about it that way. You can have all different kind of symptoms. The other problem is it can take its time. So just because I get exposed to COVID today doesn't mean I feel sick today. I may not feel sick for 2 weeks. I may not feel sick at all. But I'm still being able to spread it. So that's part of the interesting thing about COVID-19 is that it may take some time for your body to develop the symptoms for you to know you're sick. That's why they do so much tracking, because let's say today I find out I have COVID-19. I have been exposing people for the past 2 weeks. So everybody I've come across needs to know, well, you were in contact with someone who possibly exposed you to COVID. But the symptoms vary. Anything from head to toe pretty much can be it. But the main things we see are fatigue, fever, chills, body aches, stomach troubles even. Some people feel like they have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. You can just, basically you feel miserable. For the most part. So most people will describe it as I just felt horrible. And then most of the symptoms, though, are going to be in the face, head, and neck, stuffy nose, congestion, sneezing, coughing. All right, next slide. Okay. So what is it actually doing, right? So what is the COVID actually doing to me? Why is it so bad? Why is it such a big deal? You said a coronavirus could be a common cold. Why can I fight that and not fight this? Okay, so here's what's special about COVID. If you look at that picture, you see those little spikes on top of it. Those spikes is what's giving COVID all of its oomph, all of its punch. Those spikes are what's attaching to your body. Once it gets on the surfaces of your nose, your chest, your lungs, and all, once it attaches, those spikes allow it to kind of come into your body, and now it wreaks havoc. Okay, so that's what makes it so terrible, is those spikes. Without those spikes, COVID is nothing. Okay, so but what is it doing? So we said head and neck mainly, right? So it can come in your eyes. That's why we like to, if you don't wear glasses, you should be wearing some kind of shield, something to protect your eyes, because it can come in that way. Okay, so you can get something as simple as a pink eye, thinking you just got pink eye. It could be COVID. It can affect your nervous system, because think about this. It was like, well, how come you lose sense of taste and smell? Okay, well, look at it this way. If you can't smell, you don't taste, right? That nerve that tells your body, tells your brain, I'm smelling this and that, is in your nasal passages. So then once it gets into your nervous system that way, that nerve is shut down, you can't smell. Okay, and then once you can't smell, you can't taste, right? Okay, and so you can even have seizures, you can have brain swelling, you can have something that looks like meningitis, which is an inflammation of the spinal cord. It can cause, and the worst part of it is that it makes your immune system go crazy. So your immune system is wonderful. Your immune system goes nuts when it sees COVID. It's trying to fix it. It's trying to fix the problem. But our immune system goes overboard and creates makes the problem almost worse. So for example, when it gets into your lungs, your body starts making mucus, trying to trap the virus. The mucus is trying to get the virus and trap it so that maybe you can cough it out, or maybe you can swallow it and digest it. That's what the mucus is for, but it creates so much mucus, now you can't breathe, and now you got pneumonia. And now you can't, it just goes overboard. So your immune system is kind of part of the problem in a way, because it overreacts. Once your immune system overreacts, you can cause damage to your blood vessels. Once you cause damage to your blood vessels, now your heart's acting funny, your kidneys are acting funny, your liver is acting funny. Everything can fail now once your blood vessels get involved. So once your immune system is involved, and then your blood vessels are involved, now you have all these other problems. You can have blood clots and have a stroke, because people were getting confused. It's like, how are you going to get a stroke on COVID? How I have a cold and now I got a stroke? This is why. Okay? Next slide. Any questions so far? Everything making sense? Okay, good. So as much sense as it can, right? Okay, so now let's look at some numbers. Okay, so I broke it down as much as I could: United States, state of Maryland, and Hartford County. And by the way, this is all available on cdc.gov. Just go to the CDC and you can put in your zip code and it'll tell you about COVID around the block. Like, they'll give you really good statistics if you want to know. So in the United States, my eyes are not as good, but from what I remember, from when I made this slide, it's about almost 26 million people. There have been so far 26 million cases of COVID in the United States so far. Now, this is as of last night, okay? So that's a lot of people, right? That's a lot of people. So almost 26 million people. I don't know if you want to let that sink in. That's the ones we know about, okay? That's the ones we know about. There's people out back that don't want to go to the doctor. They don't want to get tested. I know even for me in my practice, people, I just want to tell you what's going on with you. No, ain't nobody going to touch me. Okay, fine. So I don't know about that person, maybe. But there's 26 million that we know of, okay? And then there's been over 1 million cases of those were just in the last 7 days. It's not getting better, not at the moment, okay? And then how many deaths? Almost 420,000 people. That's a lot of people. And so some people be like, I mean, if you look at it, numbers-wise, percentage-wise, that's not that bad. It's not that bad unless you're one of those 420,000 people, okay? And let's look up even the people who didn't die. Those people are still struggling with a lot of things. There are some people who still can't smell. There are some people who are having what we call brain fog, because remember I said it goes into your nervous system. They have trouble just computing, processing information. These are people I know, they are smart people, smarter than me. And they're just having trouble with just day to day, just what comes next, executive functions. And it takes a while for that to come back. Chronic fatigue, just feeling tired, wanting to sleep all day long. And these are people who are active people. They ran 10 miles a day. And, I take care of 85,000 kids and I do all these things. And now they're just tired. So they've survived, thank God, but it's not over for them. Okay, so some people are lucky. Some people, they get sick, well, I'm all right now, and they go back to their life, but that's not everybody. Now, Maryland, we've had about 350,000 cases in the state of Maryland and over 400 deaths. That's just Maryland. Now, for some reason, for Harford County, I could only find numbers for the last week. But these are the numbers for us, over 500 cases. Now, Harford County not big now, right? It's not big. So to have 500 cases in a week, that's serious. And under 10 deaths, thank goodness, less than 10. Again, it doesn't matter to you unless you're one of them 10 people. But the numbers are still remarkable, even just for Harford County. So those are the numbers. This is not a made-up thing. I know people like it's a hoax. It's not for real. Ain't nothing but a bad flu. This is not influenza. I promise you. I've seen influenza. I've had influenza. This is not it.
Sister Oye, we have a question online.
Okay,
How
yes.
good is the vaccination for people with pre-existing conditions?
That is a very good question. We're going to talk about vaccinations as we go on. But as far as pre-existing conditions, there's only a few pre-existing conditions that you should probably maybe think about. If you have an arrhythmia, if you have something wrong with your heart, like your heart doesn't beat on time and your doctor told you that, or you have to take medicine to keep your heart paced on time, you probably want to think about it, or at least if you do take it, make sure that you are in the observation room for longer than usual. Yes? If you're immunosuppressed, why is it so dangerous? So I'm assuming that person is wondering, if my immune system is weak, how is it that if my immune system doesn't have anything to do with it, how can this virus hurt me? I think I'm understanding the question. So whether or not your immune system is involved, a virus, or any bacteria or any organism that can get, or germ that can get in your body, once it attaches, it can tell your body to do what it wants to do. So your immune system tries to stop that from happening, but sometimes your immune system, and there are some viruses that do a great job of making your immune system overreact, it goes too far. And so your body spends more time trying to fight than trying to protect you. And there are some viruses that are very good at overcoming our immune system. So all the things that we have, our immune system, either it takes a longer time than expected, or, it just doesn't have a great answer for that thing. Like, for example, this spike protein. And so that's why, even if you're immune, whether you have a good immune system, bad immune system, no immune system, because that's a thing too, it still can get you no matter what. Because that virus, once it gets into your cells and tells your cells what to do, now you're at the mercy of this virus. I hope that answered that.
Another question, Dr. Oye.
Sure.
The factor V it is a blood clotting disorder. Do you have any information on the patients that should or should not take that if they're under the factor V mutation lighting, which again is a blood clotting disorder, and take heparin or any form of warfarin?
I don't have information specifically for a factor V deficiency, or people who have a genetic reason why they're not making factors. I will say this, as in general, when it comes to anything autoimmune, anything where your body is fighting itself, lupus, ankylosing spondylitis, there is a gazillion different kinds of autoimmune diseases, anything where your body is fighting itself for some reason. So far, it's still being suggested you the main ones that really should have the vaccine, because we know your immune system is not the same as everyone else's. So it's important to still get it. Now, if you've had issues with immune therapy in the past, where you had an allergic reaction or you had some kind of problem when you were receiving it, then maybe you should think twice about it for yourself. If you personally had a bad allergic reaction to any kind of immune therapy or vaccination in the past, because of what the vaccines have in common is some of them are using the same kind of preservatives and things like that, and we think that is what's setting people off who are having allergic reactions. Yes, sir.
The initial question that was asked you, I thought you were going to follow through and
Okay,
and give some, a list, sort of a listing of some of the, chronic.
different kind of chronic conditions.
And so I want to ask about one at least, for those persons who have dealt with diabetes, what it is.
Yes, so diabetes, for example, is a chronic condition. So chronic conditions, first of all, that's a long list. But let's talk about the common ones. We have diabetes, we have people with high blood pressure, you have people with different kinds of cancer. These are the chronic conditions that mostly people are struggling with or want to ask about if they have something in those families. So far, there has been no reason for those people not to get the vaccine specifically. Again, if this is something you want to talk about with your doctor, because everybody is not, this is not a cookie cutter kind of thing. So I can't say for every last person with diabetes should get it if you also have this or you also have that, and I don't know your history. So some people have had things in their past that maybe you shouldn't if you've had reactions or you've had issues with medications or with like what we call immune therapy, anything where we're putting something in you to help modulate your immune system, like people with cancer, people with autoimmune diseases, then you have to talk to your personal doctor to make sure that there's no reason why. For the most part, there has not been an issue with that specifically, for the most part. Does that answer the question? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Pacemakers, those are the people that when we said heart problems, the with arrhythmias, that's in that group. Yeah. So if you have a pacemaker for some reason, for most reasons, most likely you have the pacemaker. The pacemaker is helping to fix the problem, but you still have an underlying problem with your heart. You should definitely talk to your cardiologist or your primary doctor and decide if you should go ahead and take a chance with the vaccine.
Another question. How does the vaccination work with maintenance drugs?
That's another good question. There hasn't been any contraindication or any problem so far with people who are taking other things. So people who are on things for their diabetes, who are taking medicine for their heart, taking medicine for their lupus, so far it hasn't been a problem for those people. I'm sorry, I didn't answer your question fully before about blood thinners. So far, that has not been a contraindication either.
Another question. Will this vaccination become mandatory? And if so, is there any way to decline the mandatory sanction towards taking the vaccination?
Okay, so I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a politician. I don't even do medical legal stuff. Like, I'm a pediatrician and I take care of kids in the hood. That's how I've described my job. But it's my responsibility to keep up on these things. But is it going to become mandatory? So far, even the vaccines we have now, for tetanus, for polio, for whatever, are still, yes, we call them mandatory for public purposes. So if you want to go to public school, you want to go to, the school around the corner that's a public free school, they're going to ask you to be vaccinated. But if you don't want to be vaccinated, you have the right to go ahead and go to a private school, homeschool, do what you want to do. So when parents ask me, do I have to do this? I always say, well, ain't no such thing as have to. It's a choice you're making. I'm telling you what the recommendations are from my point of view. This is what I'm saying you should do. You want to go to this public school up the street, this is what they're telling you need to do. You don't have to go to that school. You don't have to come here into my office. You can do anything you want to do, but understand that I also have civil liberties and I also have to protect those kids who can't be vaccinated. And so I'm going to try to vaccinate as much people as possible to protect them. So that's really where right now. Obviously, COVID vaccine is not mandatory. If it becomes mandatory, I imagine it's going to follow some of the same rules some of the other vaccines we already use will be. Is that, if you don't receive this vaccine, then there's certain things that you may not be allowed to do.
Another question.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
There were some questions on the floor.
Okay, I can't see on the floor.
I know, that's okay. Let me, okay, yes, in the back.
Yes, just on the question of virulence, I've heard two different experts, one epidemiologist and the other an infectious disease specialist, with respect to this new mutant variant that showed up in London and now in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But with regards to the fact that they both have said
Right. It's like you saying the same thing. I got you. Let me explain it this way. So the question is what's the difference between something being contagious and something being virulent? So when you say something is virulent, you're talking about what it does once it gets in your body. So how sick is it going to make me? So we talked about that a little bit already. So about what virulence is, it's about how sick it makes me. Contagious is about how easy is it for it to spread from person to person. Okay, so that's the difference between something being contagious and something being virulent. So with the new strains they're coming up with, first of all, don't be alarmed. Don't freak out. Oh God, it's new strains. Oh Lord, Jesus is coming back. Calm down. Every virus does that. Every single virus on earth does that, where it changes. It mutates. It does different things. Oh, I'm going to be like this year. That's why flu vaccine changes every year, because every year the influenza virus changes. 1 year is going to act like this. Another year is going to act like that. 1 year this strain is going to be more prevalent. Another year is going to be this. That's what viruses do. They change up. So what they're saying is that it's more contagious in that we're seeing it spread faster than other strains. But once it comes in your body, it's doing the same thing the other COVID did. Not necessarily, because they're saying two different things. So what they basically were trying to say in all them words was, it's doing the same thing once you catch it, but this particular strain is looking like it spreads a little better than maybe other ones. That's what they're saying. So it's still spreading everywhere. The regular COVID that we first identified is pretty contagious. And that's why the mask, social distancing, wear a shield, don't touch each other, all of that. Because it is spread pretty easily. They're just saying, okay, this one, yeah, it's pretty contagious. But once you get it, it's the same old, same old. Brother Eric, yeah.
Shot.
Wrong.
And then I understand that they're telling us that, or people walking around with it that don't even have a knowledge that they had COVID, so.
Right, so the question was, if you've already, as you guys are good, I didn't need to prepare nothing. Like, you just brought up all of my stuff. You like stole my thunder a little bit. It's all right. So the question is if you've already had COVID, does that mean I don't need the vaccine? The question is no. You still should be vaccinated. So let's go back a little bit. If you've already had COVID, and thank you, Jesus, you're still here, right? Remember we said your immune system overreacts a little bit, like it just kind of does everything. It's real extra when you get COVID. What happens is that now your immune system made antibodies against COVID, but it was just the one exposure you got, right? So it only made that amount of antibodies you get after one exposure, and it made antibodies against everything because it didn't know what was going on. So you have antibodies against spike protein, you got antibodies against other proteins on top of the COVID virus that don't do anything. So you have there was a lot of extra that happened that is not necessarily helpful. When you get the vaccine, notice, we'll talk about that a little more. With Pfizer's vaccine, you get 3 doses. With Moderna's vaccine, you get 2 doses. So the purpose is to tell, okay, come back to your immune system again. Remember this? Make antibodies against this. Remember the first time we showed it, make antibodies again. So you get actually a better immune response when you're vaccinated versus when you're not. The other thing we're not sure of is how long, if you had coronavirus, how long does your immunity last? What they're finding out is people who had it, it's not lasting as long as we hoped. Which is why there are people who come back and get COVID again. They're like, I can't believe it. They're like, you don't got to test me, Doc. I had it. No, we're going to test you because there are people who can have it twice, 3 times, whatever. There's nothing saying you can't get it more than once. That's why even if you've had it, just go ahead and get vaccinated.
I was just going to say about the immunizations, and I don't know if all the schools still do this, but they used to let people select and say opt out of them, and say for religious reasons,
Right.
they did not want to.
Yes. So the statement that was made about that there was a option to opt out of vaccines, like when before COVID, that you could just fill something out, and that is true. So it depends on the school. You're talking about, like I'm talking about it from a school point of view, from a work point of view. They do allow you to fill something out saying we offered it, we tried to give it, you said no, blah, 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 and you still don't have it. And so I imagine they might do the same thing for COVID, that if for religious reasons. Here's the rub, though. I think the government is starting to crack down on those religious purposes, because there are not many, I only know of one religion that has come out publicly and clearly and said, we do not promote vaccinations. And that's the Nation of Islam. That's the only one that I know of that came out and said, don't vaccinate your kids. Everybody else, now Islam as a whole said, no, we cool with vaccines. But Nation of Islam, that particular group, said no. But there is no, Jews didn't say nothing, Christians, nobody has. So when you say religious, the schools are going to look at you sideways. So, and okay, yeah, so Jehovah's Witness, what I've noticed with them, it depends. Some of them don't want anything like blood, like they don't want blood products. So they'll say no to certain vaccines that they feel may have anything that may be like resemble something like blood, or so they'll ask a lot of questions and well, I'll take this one, but not that one or whatever. I think your hand was up first.
What if you got stents and a pacemaker? Or your chance?
What if you have, I'm sorry?
Stents, heart stents.
Stents, okay.
And a pacemaker.
Stents should be fine. That's not an arrhythmia. The pacemaker, right, pacemaker is different, right? And then you have to, for a lot of your questions, think about this too. This is the way, as from a physician standpoint, the way I think about it when people ask me this. What is your chances of getting COVID? What is your chances of dying from COVID versus your chances of dying with the vaccine? And so for me, that's the choice we're really making. If I just showed you those numbers within a week, over 500 cases in just Hartford County, I'm thinking, wow, this person has a high chance of getting COVID. And because they have all of these other medical conditions, they've got lung problems, heart problems, whatever, they can die from COVID if they get it. Is it better for me to kind of, which chance are we willing to take? Yes, sir.
On Thursday or Friday of last week, I was listening to one of the morning shows, and a well-known physician who is on most mornings, I think his last name is Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
was referencing the new vaccine that may come from Johnson & Johnson.
Johnson & Johnson. Mm-hmm.
With a 50% plus success, whatever. I don't want to know whether the word is rate, but success. He talked about making it prescriptive. He used the word, he said prescriptive, and I understood the word as he was saying it to mean populations who might be fearing taking the vaccine, or in communities where there's limited access to the other two vaccines, give them that. And I had problems with that.
I see. Okay, so the question was referencing a television program where a physician was discussing the Johnson & Johnson's vaccine, which is, he's saying it's going to have less of an efficacy. I think that's what he's trying to say. Less of an efficacy compared to the Pfizer and the Moderna ones, and maybe we should just give those out to people who don't have access to the first two. So I guess that's, again, hard for me to answer in a way, but I would say this. I feel like people have to get what we can get. There's a lot of politics behind why is it taking so long for the vaccine to be dispersed? Why is it not going to certain people? Why is it being done this way? That's really a political issue, to be honest with you.
That's what I think.
Yes, and so I don't know why. I'll be honest, I don't know why and what is, we can all speculate on why, and well, this person was in administration and so that's why it was like that and so on and so forth. I do know that a lot of the people who are, who work in departments of health are saying how there is a lot of gridlock. And they don't know, and they don't even know why. They're ready to go, they're chomping at the bit, ready to do what they need to do, and there is a lot of obstruction. I don't know why. But, if it's up to me, if you're telling me, okay, let's immunize you against COVID, but this is the only one we got, I'm going to take that one. I'll take it. I mean, give me something. That's the way I see it.
But for education purposes, as they taught in general about educating communities at large. Doesn't matter which community, just educating people to get the vaccine. What I heard would cause me to question and may cause members of certain communities
To feel some type of way, absolutely.
that you are gonna give me second best,
Right.
and if you're gonna give me second best,
I don't
then
want
you
it.
tested me all over again like you did with other stuff.
So I was gonna address that too, but about why there's so much mistrust. But I can see, I can't stop anyone from feeling that way. I can see why you would feel that way, absolutely. Absolutely, and there's already a lot. Listen, I always tell people when they come to me like, I mean, I don't want to get on your nerves, but I'm like, you're not going to get on my nerves. I expect you as a normal human being to ask questions about yourself. You should never in a million years do anything. Don't put anything in your mouth. Don't put anything in your body. Don't do anything to yourself without understanding what you're doing, okay? This is the only body you're going to have. This is the last chance you got with this body. Let's take care of it. We're supposed to be stewards over it. We're supposed to take good care of ourselves. God has given us so much in order for us to do that. So I would never, ever be angry at anyone or even slightly irritated with anyone that asks me questions that have to do with something I'm trying to do to them. So that's number one. And that's another thing is number two is I understand why there's mistrust. We know about Tuskegee. We know about Henrietta Lacks. We know about the lead studies that Hopkins did. We know about even still now, Flint, Michigan still has lead in their water. I get it. And I'm mad too. I think it's messed up. I think it's wrong. I think though, that doesn't mean that this thing we're trying to give you, that is not bad. The way it's happening, the politics around it to me is the issue, not the thing. It's kind of like when people be like, well, I don't, I'm not a Christian because people at church do this. No, church don't got nothing to do with how you feel about Jesus. Okay, you feel the way you do about Jesus because that's the way you feel about Jesus. I should be able to act a straight fool in church and you still feel the way you feel about Jesus. And that's how I feel about this vaccine. The vaccine is what it is. Now, all the stuff around it and the way people are acting, yes, it's wrong how some of the people are behaving and some of the politics around it. It doesn't make the vaccine a bad thing. Okay, there were 2 questions up here.
Through the tobacco of this, you have about 4 questions.
Oh, Lord. Whew. I thought I was going to be in and out today. Oh, okay, go ahead.
Looks like we are huckled down for the weather.
All
and you as
right.
well.
We got stuff to eat here. I'm hungry. Okay.
So, I'm sorry, is Pastor speaking?
Pastor said something.
Okay, well, these 4 have been in holding because we were taking the ones on the floor.
That's fine.
So what I can do is just do these few. One was almost in reference to the same thing that Dr. Hagray said. And so I'll kind of piggyback on that one real quick. And that one was, should we hold out for the next vaccination and vaccine rather, because we know there's going to be something else. And I think you already spoke on that, correct?
Yes, there are going to be more. So actually, it's not just Johnson & Johnson's. I think AstraZeneca has one that they're working on. Novartis has one that they're working on. They're in phase 3. Phase 3 mean that they're still, monitoring the volunteers that came forward and got the vaccine. So yeah, there may be more. I don't believe in waiting though.
Right.
Between now, when you don't know when that's going to happen, between now and then, you can be exposed. So it's like, so you done waited and
Right.
it could be too late.
One of the commentations on here was just funny. I thought I'd throw it in. The gentleman said, don't jump out and buy the first brand new car. I thought that.
What'd you say?
He said, don't jump out and buy the first brand new car, test drive several. So that's kind of like piggybacking off the story that Dr. Hagray said, just to throw some humor in there because I love it. Your mom had one here, and she's
Lord.
very prescient. What about people with renal conditions? Should they take the vaccination?
People with renal conditions,
Yes.
yes. Okay, Mom.
Okay, Mom.
I bet you she asked me on the phone anyway.
I'm sure she did.
People with renal conditions, again, it depends on what kidney conditions we're talking about. Mom, in your situation, because of when you have kidney failure, your kidneys already failed. So yes, you can get the vaccine. The issue is going to be with people who they have kidney failure because of autoimmune diseases. So there's different reasons why your kidneys can fail. So it really depends on what else is. That's why I'm saying don't just go off of just one list or one thing you see. Really, talk to your doctor, because your special condition might be different. But mom, in your condition, I already put your name in. You gonna get your vaccine.
I'm obedient to your mom, so I'm gonna keep on going down. How does monoclonal antibodies therapy work?
Monoclonal.
I think they misspelled it, so I said it the way, but I believe so.
So when
Monoclonal.
you say monoclonal, you're saying it's not talking about the virus, it's talking about your antibodies. So the type of antibodies you're making.
Okay, so they want to know, how does that work within the therapy of the vaccination?
You know what? Let's do this, because a lot of these questions are going to be answered on future slides.
Okay.
How about this? Let's go through the rest of the slides. And then that way, if there really are stuff that wasn't covered in the slides, then, we can go to that. I think let's just go ahead and finish. So we were talking about statistics. Let's go to the next one. Let's just do that. Okay, so COVID-19 vaccine basics. There is no COVID virus in the vaccine. There is no COVID virus in the vaccine. There is no COVID-19 virus in the vaccine. There is no COVID-19 virus in the vaccine. Okay? They are not injecting you with COVID. Think about it. Do that even make sense? Why are we trying to kill? We're not trying to kill the people. No, it doesn't. No. I'm going to explain to you in the easiest way. Okay, so let's thank God for this. This is the example that God gave me. Mike Tyson. Okay. Mike Tyson is one of the most powerful boxers we know, right? And even in his older age now, if he punch you, you going down. If you're a regular person, if he punched me right now, I'm going down, right? He don't even have to try that hard, right? So you can look at the COVID-19 virus like that, is that it's a Mike Tyson. When you catch it, it's a whole bunch of Mike Tysons running around your body, punching away, pop, 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 taking everything out as it goes. And your body is trying to fight it back, but the more you fight back, the weaker you get, right? So that's exactly what it is. With Mike Tyson and those arms, without those, but think about Mike Tyson without the arms. Take Mike Tyson's arms away from him. He could still fight, but what he gonna do? Okay, no pun intended, he could bite you, but you're not gonna die from that, right? You're not gonna fall down from that. He could kick you. His legs, nothing like his arms though. He could, butt around, bump into you, push, try to knock you down, but without his arms, that is what he's known for. That's what he does. What is he really going to do? Right? So that's what COVID is like. Those spikes on there, that's Mike Tyson's arms. That's all COVID got, is those spikes. Okay? That's what's causing the problem. So what the vaccine does is it teaches your immune system to fight those spikes. It's focusing only on the spikes. We don't care about the other stuff on the COVID vaccine because, like I told you, it doesn't really do much to us. It's the spikes, okay? So what happens with the vaccine, so everyone's like, it's mRNA in it. Oh my God, they're making us into a different species. No, mRNA is not even DNA. It doesn't have the power or the ability to become DNA or to even be inside of your DNA. The M in mRNA stands for messenger. mRNA goes to your DNA and brings a message. It says, hey, if you want to, can you make this? Okay? And your DNA, your body is supposed to make a decision. Yeah, okay, we'll do what you say. Or, we don't want to do what you say. So what the vaccine is it's bringing to you this mRNA that has this spike protein on it. It says, hey, DNA, make this. But what happens is your DNA is like, that's not us. Your immune system knows who you are, okay? It knows that that's not you. So when it sees the spike protein and this mRNA saying, hey, come on, make this, your body is like, absolutely not. And so what the DNA does is it calls your immune system along. Hey, guys, come and make antibodies against this thing because we don't know who they are. We don't know how they got here, but this is not going to work out. Okay, so your immune system starts making antibodies, making antibodies, making antibodies, making antibodies. In the meantime, that mRNA is gone. It's already disintegrated. It doesn't last long enough in your body to do anything. But your immune system comes along and says, hey, we don't know who these people are, but we better go ahead and make some antibodies because they just came up in here like that. Okay, and then you get another dose. So you come back and get your second dose. Your immune system is like, here it goes again. It's doing it again. Okay? And so now here you go, happy-go-lucky, you got your doses of the vaccine, right? You go out in the world, someone sneezes, you get COVID. It's all up in your nasal passages, right? Your immune system is sitting there like, oh, Mike Tyson, oh no, and starts to fight the virus. So the virus has no chance because now we know how to tear those arms off. We know how to destroy those arms. And so now COVID is just sitting there and it's going to die because it can't replace itself. It can't duplicate itself in our body because it doesn't have any arms. And our body is fighting it and killing it before it has a chance to go anywhere. That's what a vaccine is at the end of the day. It's teaching your immune system to fight something that it doesn't already know how to fight. That's it. Now, what's in it? They have the lipid protein, so they have a lipid. Lipid is just a fancy word for fat. Okay, it's just fat. There's fatty stuff. They put the mRNA, because like I said, mRNA is real, like sometimey. It falls apart real easy. So they put it inside this like fatty envelope. And then there's a bunch of other stuff in the vaccine, like mainly preservatives, things like sucrose, polyethylene glycol, these different things. It's a preservative. And so it goes in, and that's what you're getting. Okay? That's it. That's what's inside of it. So I think I explained this, but like I said, it does not contain actual coronavirus. So now, when you think about it, think about Mike Tyson trying to come in your body and cause havoc. But because you had your vaccine, your immune system knows exactly how to tear his arms off. And he can sit there and try to bite you, kick you, whatever, but it's not going to work out because that's not what he really does well. Okay, next slide. Okay, myth busting. I just want to talk about a few more myths just in case. Isn't this all kind of fast? So this is how good God is. This whole technology with mRNA is nothing new. They actually have been working on this long ago because of SARS. So for those of you who don't know SARS was like COVID before time. And it used to take people out in Asia, like boom, 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 like SARS is a mess there. And they had already started working on this. This is nothing new. This has been in the works. But look at God. Before we had a chance to ask him for a vaccine, he had already been working on something. So then when coronavirus came along, they were like, wait a minute. SARS is a coronavirus. COVID-19 is a coronavirus. I wonder if this technology would work for COVID. And that's what happened. It worked. Another reason why it happened so fast is because we got rid of a lot of that red tape. Part of making a vaccine is you got to get permission, you got to write a bunch of papers, you got to ask your, company, you got to ask your governor, you got to ask the government, everybody got FDA, everybody has to be involved, even if you just want to see, if you're even thinking about testing something on somebody. It normally does take 10 years and like $1 billion. This is why, if everyone talking about big pharma, this is why pharmaceutical companies don't want anything to do with vaccines because it takes too long and it costs too much. I think most of them don't want nothing to do with it. They have to be asked to do it because it's usually too much, okay? So that part was removed. So they were like, oh, okay, I don't got to ask the FDA and wait a year for them to get back to me. Okay, boom. So they just went ahead about the study as normal. Another thing that made it fast, we didn't have to wait long for volunteers. Normally for something else, people just not going to up jump and say, hey, can you test me? With these, people volunteered. People came out of the floodgates and had more volunteers than we've had with any other study. With like HPV vaccine, they may have had like some hundreds. And that's why it took 10 years, like all that time. But with this one, people came out in droves. There were so many people. And that's why every company has some. They had some people. Everybody had some. That's why it happened so fast. And so that's really it. In that a lot of the main roadblocks that people usually get when they're trying to make a vaccine have been removed. And it was already started, thank God. And it worked. And usually the rule in medicine is if something is working, you cannot withhold it from the community. If you see that the people who volunteered for it are getting better and you're seeing that it's working and you're seeing that the side effect, everything is working, why would you withhold it why are you just gonna sit there and watch people die? Can the mRNA become part of my DNA and change who I am? No, I got asked that. It's like, am I gonna become like something else? No, you're not gonna become an X-Men. or nothing like that. You you're gonna be regular old you after the vaccine. It doesn't have the power to join your DNA and make you something else. If I already had COVID, okay, so we talked about that. If I already had COVID, I don't need the vaccine. So we talked about, yes, you do, but you can argue that maybe I don't have to be in the front. I know I have some. You may, say maybe I can wait because I have something, but at the same time, like I said, you still should get it anyway. The new technology they've used hasn't been tried yet. So like we talked about that too, and that this had already been in the works. This was already in the bag. It's just they were able to, because of how similar SARS is to COVID-19, they were able to use that instead for COVID-19. Okay, next slide. Okay, so why should I get vaccinated? I said it works. It's 95% efficacy, meaning 95 that you have, if you get the vaccine full dose on time, the way you're supposed to receive it, there's a 95% chance of you not being sick from COVID. That doesn't mean you're not going to get exposed to COVID. It don't got nothing to do with that part, okay? You can get exposed, but what we're finding is that even if you get exposed to COVID, either you have no symptoms or your symptoms are very mild, okay? So we said that, and it keeps you from infecting other people. And that's the only way this pandemic is going to end. People have to stop getting infected. We have to see those numbers come down. We should not have 500 people in a week in Harford County. Like, that's crazy. The only way to achieve that is for enough people to have been vaccinated. Either you wait for them to get the disease and survive it and hope their immune system made a good enough response, or you got to get a vaccine. So if we get 80% of the people with antibodies, then we have a good chance of creating what we call herd immunity. So herd immunity means enough of us are immune to make the disease rates come down. Okay, so, and it don't have to be everybody, because there's some people who we said they can't get vaccinated, babies, people like that. And of course, people who just still, I don't want it, I don't trust it, I don't want to do it. Those people still going to benefit from what the rest of us are doing. Okay, so that's the main thing. You want this pandemic to go away, we have to do something.
Anaphylaxis, acute anaphylaxis.
That's the next slide. Okay, side effects. So anaphylaxis. So anaphylaxis means a severe allergic reaction. And this happens to be true for any vaccine, but we have seen it to be a little bit more with the COVID vaccine compared to other vaccines that we give. For those of you who have kids, you know that when they get their shots, you're supposed to watch them. We're not supposed to go boom, boom, bye. You're supposed to sit for like 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, make sure everything's good. Usually I sit there and I chit-chat, I'll write notes, I'll do stuff, and then you can go. Just want to make sure everything's okay. And it's the same thing with COVID. What we're finding, as long as you still we're giving you a longer observation period with COVID. And if you've had a history of allergic reactions, it still doesn't mean you shouldn't get it. It just means that you should probably be observed for a little bit longer and sit in that observation room for a little bit of time. Because if it's going to happen with anaphylaxis, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in the first 30 minutes. It's not going to be weeks later. And you'll hear a lot of news stories like, oh, that person fell out from the vaccine 2 weeks later. No. When you read news stories, make sure you read the story, because they'll say something sensational to get you to click and open the story and read it, and then you read it and it's not what they say. And they keep talking about this doctor that died 2 weeks later. But we don't know if he had this condition before. He's like, I just had to say that. Then there's Bell's palsy. I only put Bell's palsy up there because it's another misconception. So Bell's palsy, that's when you get the nerves on one side of your face, and some people both droop, like it comes down, so you're not able to close your mouth or close your eyes all the way. Now a number of people, the occurrence and the people who got the vaccine is actually the same as the general population. So the same percentage of people who got the vaccine is the same percentage of people who didn't get it. So there wasn't a difference. So it's one of those things. Just because two things happened at the same time doesn't mean one thing caused the other. So if I was at the bank when it got robbed, don't mean I robbed the bank. It wasn't me. I don't do that. I see you looking at me past it. I ain't do it. Okay? So just because two things happen together in the same place doesn't mean one causes the other. So that's what happened with Bell palsy. There's two things that happen in the same place, but one doesn't have anything to do with the other. And then the other side effects, the same as the other, that everything's the same. Oh, it hurts, it's red, it's warm right there, it's a little swollen. I felt tired, I felt sleepy for a day. These are the same things with every other vaccine, and this is the same with this one. Okay, next slide. Okay, so now we're coming down. How can you get, so first of all, if you're listening out in TV, media land, go to your health department. Every health department has been mandated to put out information about COVID-19 and how you can get vaccinated. When you open up HartfordCountyHealth.com, it goes directly to how you can get you. That's the first thing you see, how you can sign up for the vaccine. Now, here's the problem. And this changed even from since I talked to you, Pastor, I think their amounts are already reduced. Because when I tried to sign up my mom, they were like, well, they sent me an email saying, all right, we're going to get back to you. I'm like, get back to me? Excuse me? I just was a little hurt. I was ready to, pick out a date and time and all of that stuff. And, I don't know if maybe they're working on something else. I don't want to assume something nefarious. I don't know if maybe they're working on maybe something walk in or walk up where people can just come, maybe a little bit easier access. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. Don't waste your time. Come on and sign up. At least get your name, get your foot in the door, get your name on the list. Let's get it going because, I don't know why it's so hard to get out enough doses. And when there are some places where there is so much demand that I know that there's some health departments that just cannot keep up. There's just everybody didn't showed up. And people coming from other states and everything at other people's health department trying to get vaccinated. So get in there, make your decision, make up your mind. I'm not trying to rush anyone. Make up your mind, and then do what you need to do. I'm not telling anybody what to do. You already know what I did. If you go to the next slide. You know what I did. I got my first one. I got my second one on February the 4th. Hopefully they still got some. Hopefully they put some aside for your girl. But I got mine. I feel like that's my, that's what I want to do for my health. Right. So I was contacted first. So I was in that 1A group. I was kind of like 1A-ish, like 1AA. Because I'm not front lines, like ER physicians and them, they went before me. And then they came to the outpatient, because with us, the issues, we don't know when someone walks in the door. People come in the door all the time. I had someone who lied on their questionnaire and then sat in my chair and was like, can you tell me why I can't smell? And I'm like, wow. Wow. So people are something else. So that being said, now that you've seen all the slides, are there still remaining questions? And before I say that, hold on. If there's anyone who needs help signing up, anybody can you go to the previous slide? You can call that number, or you can go to the website for your health department. That's the one for Hartford County, and sign up electronically. Even if you go online, but you don't like doing online, they give you an option to get a phone call later as opposed to an email. So you can do it lots of different ways, okay? So please, if you really want it, and then of course, you can always talk to your personal doctor and your healthcare professional. Mom, especially the dialysis people, they're on top of the thing. Okay. I gotta give my mom special treatment. Now, remaining questions. Yes, Deacon.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to know, is there a wait period between having COVID and then getting the vaccine?
That's a good question. I believe they want you to at least not be symptomatic. So they want you to not be symptomatic. Okay. My mom is texting me. She is something else. They want you to at least not be symptomatic. If you're sick right now, I even do that in my practice. If you, let's say you want your flu shot. If you're sick right now, this is not the time to get a vaccine. Your immune system is going crazy right now. We should not be doing, let's let you not at least be symptomatic, meaning you don't feel sick anymore, and then we can move forward with that. Yep. And they'll ask you that. You're going to get screened. So they're not just going to jump, boom, they're going to ask you a million and one questions about what you got, what issues, what health issues, blah, 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 and then they'll make a decision about whether or not you should get the vaccine. Okay. 15 more minutes? Yes, sir. Any other questions? Sister Stacy, Dr. Stacy? Any questions on there?
I believe Deacon Tally's wife asked the same question. I didn't hear it all. If you have already had COVID, do you have to wait? Did he ask that question?
He asked a similar question. See, they in
Okay,
lockstep. That's
so
beautiful.
she's asking if you have already had the COVID, do you have to wait to get the vaccination?
You do not have to wait, but as some people say, just for like being nice, it might be nice for you to wait because you have some antibodies already. But that immunity is not going to last. So eventually you should. Eventually you should.
You had one more question holding, and then that will be finished. Children, when will there be a possible vaccination for children? And is it safe, which is a question, I'm not sure if you have the answer, is it safe to send our children back to school without the vaccination? That's a hard question. I saved that for last. Again, Dr. Oye is not a politician.
Thank you. I am not, and I have no interest in it at all. Okay, so the first part of the question, children. So, like I said, part of the reason why this vaccine could move forward so fast was because of the crazy number of volunteers that stepped forward to be tested, to go ahead and try the vaccine. Didn't nobody bring their kids forward, right? So, to test children, you have to have parental permission. So that's the reason why kids are not included yet. So Pfizer, I believe, goes down to 16, and Moderna goes down to 19. So under 16, you just don't have a lot of, there's nothing you can do because we don't know. But they are testing it now. Now they're getting more volunteers. So they're going to find out soon about what should be different about kids, if anything. So that's the thing about kids. Now, going back to school, that's another one. It depends on how you feel. To me, I feel like the issue with kids is not them getting sick. They don't get sick as bad. The percentages for them, they're mainly carriers. So I'm not worried about kids per se. I'm worried about granny. I'm worried about pop. I'm worried about auntie, uncle. I'm worried about, your Sunday school teacher. I'm worried about the people that come in contact who they're spreading the virus to. And who's going to be there to take care of these kids if their caretakers are all dropping like flies from COVID? So to me, that's the issue. Teachers also have their own lobby. They have been mainly not in favor of schools opening fully, or just having limited opening where maybe only kids who kind of like kids with special needs, for example, who gotta go, there's no way for them to learn except in school. So we at least let them, come in. But I feel for me personally, now this is Oye talking, just regular Oye, I feel like we just wait. I know I'm mad about school too. I'm mad that school is closed. I want them to go back. I know some of these parents can't wait for these kids to go back and they tired of these 3 meals a day thing. It's a lot, but it's a small price to pay when we're talking about life or death. And so let's wait until we know, at least we can get enough adults vaccinated. And then we can talk about opening schools up little by little. That's how I feel about it. I'd rather err on the side of caution and just make sure. I know I'd worry about the kids too as far as their development, because online school is not the same. It's not working out for a lot of kids. For some kids, it's working out great actually, but there's some where it's working out terribly and it's really hard on them. And I want them to go back too, but I want you to be alive to go back. Yes, ma'am.
For the vaccine, does that include people who volunteered, they got the vaccine and then were exposed to COVID?
No. So what they do is, okay, first of all, another thing that should make people feel better is these were randomized double-blind studies. So what does that mean? They have, let's say you give me 10 people, right? I'm going to randomly pick 5 people to go to the testing group. You're going to get the actual vaccine. I'm going to take another 5 people, and you're going to get a placebo. You're going to get a fake vaccine. So you're going to go through the whole process, but the stuff in that vial was water or whatever, right? So, but the thing is the people who got the vaccine don't know which one they got. They don't know what group they're in. And me as a pharmaceutical company also doesn't know who got what until after the study is completed. In the study, no, we're not purposefully giving people COVID. What we're doing is we give them, you get the vaccine, and then we see how immune are you. So you get followed for side effects. So they'll keep following you. Okay, did this happen to you? Did that happen to you? Did this happen? So you're supposed to keep coming back to them and telling them how you feel today. And by the way, you're going to go through that too, where they're going to ask you to make sure you're okay. Once you get your vaccine, you're going to get, and you should have gotten a couple of text messages by now of like, tell us how you feel today. Have you had this? Have you had that? So they did something like that, but more in depth for the people who were in the study. So they're not purposely injecting you with COVID to see if the vaccine works. It's not that. We want to see how many antibodies you've made. So and how long do those antibodies work? So that's how the study works. Mm-hmm.
If I didn't ask the dog question.
The dog?
Sniffing question.
Dog sniffing. Don't you bring up this. So what he's talking about is that for some of the I know the NBA is starting it, where they have you, if you want to go to see, you just desperate, you got to see your team play. You got to, for my New Yorkers, you got to see the Knicks sit there and lose again. They're saying that they've trained these dogs to smell COVID. And so they've taken these, so if you standing online for your ticket, you're going to get sniffed out. And if that dog sit next to you, no ticket for you. You got to go home and get out this line. So I don't know. I don't know how you teach a dog how to smell COVID. I really don't. My suspicion is that they're not smelling COVID, but they are sensing that you're sick. I think they're picking up on something about you, that you're probably sick. There's something about you that's ill, and that is, you could have strep throat, you could have a cold, but it may not be COVID. But either way, if you have anything of those things, you probably shouldn't be coming to see the Knicks play anyway. All right. All right. Anybody else? It looked like people ready to go. Snow is collecting. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'm happy to do that. Like I said, I'll never be mad at just questions. All right.
All right, we want to thank all of you. Bless you. We want to thank all of you for staying out. The snow is collecting. Thank all of you who have viewed today. We pray that the information has been something for you to move forward on. Hope that also you got a better understanding of what we're dealing with. So govern yourselves accordingly. We try to make sure you have every piece of information that we can give you. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you. We'll see you on Tuesday night, unless it's still snowing.